How's it going? So I'm on a quest to figure out the best exercises for someone with suboptimal genetics. So me personally, I don't think I have the best genetics, but I look to the science, I test out different techniques, and I think I found a lot of really good strategies to be able to maximize your time in the gym and get the best effort, get the best results, get the most muscle growth, and so forth. So let's get into it. Today, we're going to be looking at how we can maximize bicep growth and how to do this in the best way possible and the safest way possible. Also, if you stay to the end, I'm going to be sharing a technique that's helped me tremendously to prevent elbow pain, because this is something I've noticed that I've developed over time from doing certain tricep and bicep exercises. So who am I? My name's Andy J, and I'm here to support millennial men as we age so we can stay healthy. Welcome to the brotherhood. Today, like I said, we're talking about bicep exercises. Now, before I get into it, drop a comment. Let me know what bicep exercise has been working for you, what questions you have, because again, we're trying to build community here and your engagement means so much. So before getting into the exercises, let's do a quick anatomy lesson of the bicep. So there might be a little picture on the screen here showing that there's the short head and the long head. If we work both of these, and most exercises would target most bicep exercises, you'll be able to get the most stimulus for those specific areas and get the best growth, the best support for the muscle tissues so you don't injure yourself. So the bicep does only three things primarily. It's hinging at the elbow, it's supinating with the forearm, and flexion with the shoulder, assisting in like lifting things forward. So now, before getting into some of the exercises that I found to be really effective for bicep growth, there's a couple tips to keep in mind when you're doing any bicep exercise. One of them is that it seems like more and more literature has been coming up lately where the act of getting a full stretch at the bottom and then at the top a squeeze will help maximize the stimulus to grow your bicep. I'm a really big fan too of going to failure on the exercise, so you know you've challenged that muscle fiber to its deepest extent. And you can do other things to really make sure that you've reached failure, like half reps, things of that nature. I'm also making another video in the near future of different techniques you can utilize to ensure you're reaching muscle failure, so look for that. And some other things, when you're doing a bicep curl, try to keep the shoulders out of the picture. So the shoulders are basically completely turned off. And then when you're doing the bicep curl, you're basically focusing on hinging from the elbow. Another thing is when you're curling, try not to twist the wrist forward, because that's going to put a lot of unnecessary strain on the wrist. What actually is better is more of a neutral grip, or even the hand slightly back will help utilize more bicep isolation, but also target more into the forearm, which will be a little bit better. And now to look at some exercises that I found to be quite effective at getting really good targeted isolation into the bicep muscles. The first one's going to be the preacher curl, which targets both muscle parts, the long head and the short head, but it's a little bit more emphasized into the short head. And so just to kind of walk you through this, elbows neutral grip with shoulders. Find a seat that's low enough so you feel that you're slightly hanging over, but not too much that it's decreasing mobility. Similarly, you don't want to raise the seat too high, because then it can feel you're on top of the handles. Again, make sure the shoulders are down. Try to lean back slightly also. This will also help emphasize the stretch and create continual tension into the bicep. And then just maintain that and keep controlled performing the exercise. A good rep range on this particular exercise is about 10 to 15 reps. The next exercise is pretty cool. I've only discovered it fairly recently and I really like it a lot. I can't pronounce the name properly, so I apologize if I screw this up, but it's Bayesian cable curls. This emphasizes more of the long head. This can be done seated or standing. For whatever reason, I found it to be easier just in a standing position, but there are some benefits being in a seated position because you can be more consistent in how far you are away from the machines. The resistance might be a little bit more consistent from a measuring standpoint. I like doing it standing. I find it to be a little bit easier. So if you do it in the standing position, you start with the cables at about chest height. If seated position, it'll be similar. You're just going to lower them a little bit lower. If you're standing, you take a couple steps forward, and then you just want to let the machine pull your arms back. That's one of the key features and aspects of this exercise is a really deep stretch by pulling your arms back. Really be mindful of your shoulders, keeping them down, and then you want to strictly hinge at the elbow and then squeeze at the top. This particular exercise, you want to emphasize generally around 8 to 12 reps is a good rep range for this one. I found that to be really good. And a good all-around bicep exercise that really targets the long head and the short head pretty evenly would be just like the standard cable curl or bicep curl. You know, you can do this with a bar also, but I really like to use this with cables because you get continual tension through the entire exercise, so it tends to work a little bit better, in my opinion. So what you want to do is step back, squeeze your arms against the sides, chest up, use the bar and hold it slightly wider than the elbows, and make sure that there's no impingement and it's comfortable. That's very important. If you find that there is some impingement, just move the hands a little bit closer together. Lean back slightly to create stability. And then you want to visualize scooping like a bucket of water up. The idea of this scooping motion will help keep the shoulders down in your mind. So when the exercise gets a little bit more challenging, you won't accidentally start to raise your shoulders and be unaware of that. So I find this scooping motion to be really effective. And also it feels really good into the bicep, really isolative. Try to keep your head in a neutral position. So don't be tensing the neck or looking around or anything like that. Make sure you go into a full stretch. Feel like you're in the stretch. Don't feel like you're dropping out of the exercise where there's no tension anymore. And then come back in and squeeze at the top. About 8 to 12 reps is really good for this exercise. I also wanted to include this, but it's not directly a bicep exercise. It's more of a forearm exercise. But I always throw these in because I think they're good and they don't take up much extra time. And so this is a single arm reverse curl. So what you want to do is you want to bring the cables all the way down to the bottom of the machine and then stand away from the machine slightly, leaning forward. And then with an overhand grip, you want to then, with the elbow pinned to the side, bring the arm up in the motion that's displayed on the screen. And then you want to do this for about 10 to 15 reps and then repeat on each arm. One thing to always remember is you want to start with the weaker arm. So if you're, for example, right-handed, I recommend starting on the left side and then matching that on the right side. Another thing you can do is if you find that your hands are getting tired before the exercise is finishing, is you can use wrist straps. That's another great tip that helps me a lot sometimes if I'm a little bit more fatigued. And some other additional tips that I left out earlier is just another reminder: be conscious of your form. And then as far as like how often to hit these muscles, you can do them twice per week for optimal results. But once per week is plenty of amount of a stimulus. For me, just with my schedule and being busy, once a week has still provided plenty of results, and still I've been able to see some gains in my muscles. So whatever works with your schedule, but keep that in mind. You can do it twice a week if you have the time. So I hope you found that interesting. Test those out. Let me know in the comments if you're able to use them and your thoughts on them. Now, as a bonus for staying to the end, I wanted to give you this extra exercise that I found to be really good to prevent elbow injury. Notice I started to develop what's called tennis elbow over time by doing some of these exercises. And so this particular exercise will help strengthen your inner elbow and protect you from creating any long-term injuries. And so this is basically just like a standard wrist curl. So again, you want to use the cable machine, adjust the cable machine to be about shoulder width, and then we're slightly below, and then use a moderate to light weight. Take your arms so they're about 90-degree angle, and then pin your upper arms to your sides. And then you want to just curl the wrist downward and do this for about, I think 10 to 15, but closer to 15 on the rep range is better. And so you're using a lower weight with a higher rep range to get that stimulus. And you should feel a warming sensation or a targeted sensation within the inner elbow. That's how you know you're hitting the muscle properly. So again, I hope you found that useful. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop them below. Let me know if you've tested out these exercises. Let me know if there's any other exercises you found to be even more effective, because like I said, I'm just researching things. I'm just trying things out, and I want to share them for my own use and for anyone who's watching this video. So again, thanks for your time. Let me know if you have any questions. And about this point, there should be some other videos popping up that will guide you to similar videos that I think you'll find useful as well. So I hope you're having a fantastic day, and talk to you soon.